Okay, picture this. Imagine a political fortress, a stronghold so undeniably secure that it has weathered every single electoral storm, every shifting tide, and every challenging circumstance for 77 years. Now imagine waking up and finding that entire fortress completely dismantled. Overnight. Well, that is exactly what we're looking at today. 77 years. That is how long the coalition held the seat of Farah, right up until a truly unprecedented electoral shockwave just came in and completely rewrote the rulebook.
To really wrap your head around the sheer scale of this political earthquake, we gotta look at the math. A massive 35-point swing toward one nation. And at the exact same time, the Liberal Party experienced a devastating 31-point swing against them. To put that into perspective, just over a year ago, less than 7% of Fairer voted for One Nation. This time, they won in an absolute landslide. It's a paradigm shift that has analysts completely reevaluating the current political landscape.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to objectively break down this historic upset, dig into what the data is actually telling us, and explore what sources suggest this means for the future of major established political parties. And spoiler alert, this isn't just a regional issue, we're talking about a global scale here. So here is our agenda for today. We'll start with the Fairer shockwave, zoom out to the global conservative wave, dig into the anatomy of a collapse, discuss a warning for labor, and wrap up with rebuilding voter trust. All right, let's jump straight into segment 1, the Fairer shockwave, an electoral earthquake.
Election night painted a pretty vivid picture. Sky News analysts were already declaring One Nation's David Farley the winner before 8 p.m. Meanwhile, the Liberal primary vote completely collapsed, plummeting to just over 12%. What's really fascinating here is how One Nation leader Pauline Hanson framed the result. Describing a tear in her eye, she positioned this not just as a partisan win, but as an expression of voters finally taking back control. Voters finally feeling heard after being ignored. It's a really powerful narrative of anti-establishment populism that clearly struck a major chord at the ballot box.
Moving on to segment 2, a global conservative wave beyond the Fairer seat.
Because, treating Fairer as just some quirky, isolated anomaly in regional New South Wales, well, analysts say that would be a massive mistake. This is actually part of a much broader multi-party tidal wave surging worldwide. Take the UK, for example. Reform UK mirrored One Nation's dominance by claiming over 1,400 seats from both Conservatives and Labour. Sources argue this is a surge of conservative politics driven by the exact same voter anger. Basically, when people feel ignored by the establishment, they tend to just choose the loudest option on the ballot.
So what is actually driving all this anger? According to the analysis, protest parties are zeroing in on the foundational, everyday issues voters are screaming about. We're talking mass immigration, spiraling energy costs, the loss of industrial jobs, agricultural concerns, housing shortages, and of course, the absolutely crushing overall cost of living. Established parties seem to have left a vacuum on these issues, and protest voters are aggressively stepping in to fill it.
Which brings us to segment 3, Anatomy of a Collapse, How Ferrer Fell.
So how exactly did the coalition lose a seat they had held so tightly since 1949? Susan Ley, who now carries the really heavy legacy of this Liberal loss, explicitly warned her party against taking the easy way out. She stated it would be a huge error to reduce the scale and significance of the defeat to just a mere coalition split. Instead, she urged the leadership to accept the result with humility. It's a very clear directive to the party. Do not brush this off as just internal infighting.
And then you have Angus Taylor, who offers a much blunter assessment. He calls it a party of convenience, not of conviction. Analysts point out that this exposes a massive structural disconnect that has left the core base feeling completely adrift. The party simply hasn't been united, stable, or strong for over a year.
Now, analysts argue that this disconnect was actually strategic. By focusing so intensely on fending off climate-backed teal independence in inner-city areas, the Liberals shifted their policies. They started being perceived as Labour light, and in doing so, they completely lost touch with the regional communities that actually built their majorities in the first place. They abandoned their base to chase a different demographic, and well, the base predictably retaliated.
Let's look at segment 4, a warning for Labour, incumbents under fire.
Because honestly, while Fairer was obviously a disaster for the coalition, the incumbent Albanese Labour government really can't sit back and feel confident right now. They are equally vulnerable to this new political reality. The source warns that their immediate test is the upcoming budget. If that budget is perceived as being built on broken promises, or if it just flat out ignores the cost of living crisis Australians are facing, Labour could easily be the very next target for protest voters. The electorate is showing they are more than willing to ruthlessly punish incumbents who don't deliver.
Finally, segment 5, rebuilding voter trust, the road ahead.
So what's the fix? What does the coalition, or honestly any established party facing this kind of crisis, need to do right now to stop the bleeding? Deputy Liberal leader Jane Hume literally hits the nail on the head here. She openly acknowledged, trust has been lost by the coalition. It was lost when we abandoned all of our policies, and people didn't know what it was that we stood for. Acknowledging that deep, fundamental trust was broken is step one. Because let's face it, you cannot fix a disconnect if you refuse to admit you walked away from what you originally stood for.
So the sources outline a very specific 3-step survival strategy for the coalition moving forward. Number 1, rebuild that lost faith and trust. Number 2, stop attacking one nation because honestly, that just gives them free oxygen. And number 3, rediscover serious core economic policies that reward hard work and give younger people real aspiration. Because if they don't find this fast, analysts warn Victoria could very well be the next domino to fall.
As established parties all over the world are learning the hard way what happens when you stop listening to the people who built your majorities, that wave of frustration has well and truly reached Australian shores. For so many voters, this isn't even just a protest vote anymore. It's a desperate search for someone who will actually listen to them. And so, we have to leave you with the most critical question of all. Can the Liberals actually pivot in time to become that party once again, or are we just witnessing the very beginning of a permanent political realignment?